Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about shorts failing to suppress, loading up on AMC, the gamma squeeze, and many more in this video. First, we're taking a look at this. 10 million shares in volume in 17 minutes from opening bell and have been able to suppress its opening price. Such blatant market manipulation in plain sight. So what we saw at the start of the market today was all the volume that came in was actually suppressed, and you could see that for AMC. Now, we did actually, as we're going towards the end of the market, we are up 7.93, close to 8%, but that's after all the suppression that is happening. And this is what we've said with the fact that if we weren't seeing, and you guys can see here, a 70% dark pool volume for AMC, if we weren't seeing things that are as ridiculous as this for AMC, if we saw even less than 50% of off-exchange trading for AMC, you will see how high AMC can truly go. Throughout the last 2 days, we saw 13%, we saw 7.93%, and that is very, very normal considering how well the box office is doing, considering how well AMC is doing, and considering the fact that everyone wants a piece of AMC. This isn't a surprise that we are seeing it go up. What is, and something that we should realize, is how we're fighting against the suppression and how shorts, while still trying to suppress AMC, are obviously struggling to do so, just like what we've seen here. And then you can see for the recently, volume Friday, last night, tonight is all higher than normal for AMC. Now, this is obviously saying a lot considering we have been covering how much institutions wanting to buy AMC, how much short sellers are facing in terms of stress because of the current silver market, because of the current overall market, the Japanese yen carry trade as well. And this is why we're looking at them buying AMC. You can even see here, seeing the largest amount of call volume since November 10th during the last 2 sessions. Total option premium now over 2 million, highest it has been. So what we have been looking at as well, it's the option premium going crazy for AMC. Just essentially what we are looking at is just how much volume has been happening for AMC. It doesn't stop them. We can even see here over 10,000 AMC $2 calls for June was just loaded, showing once again the volume that's happening. And this is going back to what we've said with yesterday when we take a look at the technicals. But the bullish engulfing, traded above conversion line, the MACD cross, the buying volume is still oversold. Some of our next resistance is $1.90, then $2.30, with $2.30 being the decision point. Now, we've always said this in terms of the fact that when it comes to AMC, technical analysis is something that can be used to have a gauge of the sentiment, but we can never use it the same way we do with other stocks. The reason why I say this is because we've obviously known with the obvious manipulation that it's happening, so you'll never know, despite the fact of how well the technical analysis is, you'll never know what's actually going to happen. But what we can see is how people are accumulating, is how the sentiment is shown for AMC and what is leading into. And then not only that, you can see, now do take this with a grain of salt, AMC just 0.14 cents away to triggering a gamma squeeze that ramped straight up to 22. Now, we've said this in terms for AMC. Firstly, we've already talked about the option premium that's going crazy. We talked about the calls that are being loaded up for AMC. Yesterday's video, we talked about the gamma squeeze. Essentially, we are in an area right now where so many factors are all lining up for us. What I mean by that is we talked about the stress problems that these short sellers are having. We talked about how they can easily get margin called in other positions, but that will ultimately affect their AMC positions as well. We've talked about how all the calls that are going to be expiring in the money for AMC, especially with how AMC is going up right now, and that would of course trigger the gamma squeeze as well for AMC. And so this is what we've said with that there are so many factors aligning for us currently, for the apes currently, and that's what we have to ultimately look out for. Another thing you have to know is that AMC shorts were not able to close large positions at a low price just because of the large volumes recently observed at extremely low prices. Large volume don't imply large volumes of unique shares being sold, but what we have to realize is that when we see the price of AMC going up, some people may be thinking is that it's shorts covering. Firstly, even if it was the shorts covering, they can only cover all of the real shares, meaning that all the synthetic shares that they have created that are in the billions, these can't be covered. What they can cover is when you take a look at the reported data of short interest, when you take a look at what's on the filings with the short positions, those are the short shares that they can cover. But when we talk about the billions of synthetics that are existing out there, they can't actually cover that. And that's ultimately what's going to trigger the squeeze. But even so, we have to realize just because the volume has increased, just because the price is going up, it doesn't directly mean that short sellers are covering, because we've already talked about the demand for AMC shares. We talked about how people are desperately trying to buy AMC. These institutions and even the shorts as well, whilst worrying about trying to cover, they still want to buy shares of AMC. You can take a look at Citadel, you can take a look at Virtue, you can take a look at UBS, Goldman Sachs. So many of these firms who were previously short or are still short are buying up AMC shares. Now, some did cover, like we talked about with Goldman Sachs, in terms of they got rid of all of their short positions. But what we don't know for sure is, are there any synthetic positions that they've hidden? But you can still talk about how they're obviously trying to buy AMC, how they are in need of AMC. And it's why we've said that we have to realize the opportunity that is there. Another thing to note is, with everything that's going on right now, how well AMC is doing. Recall that Q4 is likely very positive. Then look at January so far, best start to the year in the post-COVID era by 56 million at the domestic box, an extra 56 domestic in less than 2 weeks. Yes, there will be a dry sales coming, the quarter is lighter than the rest of the year, but when you understand the timing of cash flows, you realize not only are we doing well, we're about to have a run not seen in 7 years. And so one of the things we focused on this channel, it has of course been the fundamentals of AMC. Now we have seen how well Q4 was for AMC, for the box office in general, and how AMC was able to captivate off that. And now from this, what we can understand is that when we see the Q4 results, it's obviously going to be important, but it's also going to show how well we're doing. Now, we have to realize we shouldn't be expecting the earnings to bring the price up because we know about the suppression. However, we do know is that the earnings have been attracting capital flowing into AMC. Recently, we talked about the inflow outflow, and I'm not going to bore you guys with it, but the too long, the TLDR is essentially understanding that so many people are buying AMC and so little of them are selling their AMC shares. And that's just because of how attractive AMC is, especially when you take a look at the fundamentals. Another big thing is Michael Burry confirms GameStop post is coming soon. So prior to this, last year in 2025, around November, December, we talked about how Michael Burry was very active in talking about GameStop, and he also mentioned AMC as well, essentially talking about the naked short positions that was created. And he was yet to post about GME, with him now hinting once again that a post is coming. Now, we talked about how Michael Burry is obviously a very big influence in terms of what he wants to do with GME and what he thinks about the short sellers. So what we could be looking at is something major happening, especially when you look at the fact that the short volume ratio for GME is at 2,500%. Now, this is obviously a crazy number, and this is something that we've seen plenty of times for AMC and for GME. We've known that for the short interest in terms of the short ratio as well, it has always been extremely high. We've known that the short positions still exist on AMC and GME and that it hasn't been covered. And even when it does, it's a very small amount. And this is what we always talked about with understanding the fact that ortex is self-reported data at the end of the day, and you have to do your own due diligence to actually understand what's going on. And if you want to take a look at this, and this is what we talked about as well, and anyone who got into HYMC would have done very well today as well. But we can see how well, the silver market it's going right now. You can see, ladies and gentlemen, the dam protecting silver shorts from being flooded by margin calls just broke. The ultimate silver squeeze now begins. And so what we have to realize is, this is what we've said with, there are short sellers of AMC who are also trapped in this silver position that are getting margin call right now. We're going to continue to be seeing silver going up. For those of you who go into HYMC and for AMC obviously as well, as of recording right now, HYMC is up around 20%. And this is something that obviously we've talked about in the past before. We've seen AMC's investment. And so not only is this beneficial for AMC, but for any apes who got into it, you also would have made a very nice gain. It's something we've been talking about on this channel for a while, because we've been talking about how silver is obviously looking at a squeeze as well. You can see silver hits $85 an ounce. And if you want to take a look at some of the institutions who are shorting, who are getting liquidated, you know, TD Securities being one of them, where they gave a target of $40 for silver. And you can obviously see how well silver is doing today. Not only that, we're obviously seeing this short fight hard. We're seeing, you know, they're trying to prevent silver from going up. But ultimately, they can't keep this up forever when you understand what's going on in the market, when you understand all the margin calls that are happening. And, you know, this is only going to be a massive snowball effect. As we see, the smaller ones get short squeezed and get margin called, the price is going to go up, flushing out the mid-sized firms, and then repeating the process and then flushing out the big-sized firms. And so, you know, we're only going to be looking at silver going up from here, especially understanding the fact that, you know, these naked shorts that are trying to short silver are getting exposed as we see physical deliveries of silver. So I think ultimately, you know, these banks like UBS, like Bank of America, they are all struggling. The same could be said for gold as well. So this is obviously going to be bad for the banks, but it's very good for you and me. It's very good for the apes. It's very good for AMC. Like I've said, if you bought into HYMC or if you bought into silver or any miners in general, you will be doing very, very well right now. And it's the fact that HYMC is obviously up 20%, with it touching 25, 24% at the top today. And then, you know, that's what when the banks are trying to say that there could be another run on the banks, the bank rally. But we have to remember, the market right now is obviously showing bullish momentum. The silver market is going up, but a lot of these things, and we have to understand that some of them are on inflated numbers, like the AI market, which could easily crumble down at any time. And when the time does happen, that's when we're looking at AMC squeezing. As always, this is financial advice. Do take what I say, so make sure you do your own due diligence and research, and I'll catch you guys next time.